Welcome everyone, welcome back to a new episode. I hope you're doing super good. I hope you're staying on top of things in this tumultuous, what a word that is, tumultuous world. My guest on the Downbeat podcast this week is Aaron Weaver of Wolves in the Throne Room, responsible for one of my favourite black metal albums of all time, Two Hunters. Wolves in the Throne Room were kind of the people to bring together elements of more atmospheric music, like whole songs of atmospheric music with disgusting black metal. And I'm a huge fan. He's been on the podcast before in audio, but he came back this time for video. We talk about magic. He's big into magic. We talk about love of Lars Ulrich. He lives on kind of like a commune thing, so we get into that quite a lot. It's pretty deep. Super, super interesting guy. Their latest EP, Crypt of Ancestral Knowledge, is amazing. I'm a huge fan of the band, and I absolutely cannot wait to see them again, and I can't wait to get Aaron back on the podcast. Before we get started, I need you to know, we have a Patreon, patreon.com/the Downbeat. On it, you get episodes early, access to pretty much anything I do early. Remember when I released a symbol? Well, it went on Patreon early. You get access to merch early. You get everything you want. The lowest tier is £1. You can get ad-free episodes of the podcast. The lowest tier is £1. Patreon.com/the Downbeat. As ever, this episode of the Downbeat podcast is brought to you by those glorious people at Displate. Displate care about one thing. I mean, they care about a couple of things, right? But their main thing they care about is how disgusting your walls are, and they just look rubbish, and you have no interior decorating skills. You're a bit like the guy from Beetlejuice. Remember the interior designer from Beetlejuice? I think he's in Jurassic Park as well. Can't remember. But his taste was a little wrong, and so is yours. And that's how Displate can help. Displate make metal posters. They mount on the wall with a magnet. It's so easy. You just affix the protective leaf, then the magnet, and then whatever Displate you want to the wall, and immediately your walls are looking sick. You can change them out with anything. I've got them in the background of the podcast. I've got an Akira one. We got a Downbeat store. Have you seen the latest movie, Deadpool versus, well, whatever it's called, Deadpool Wolverine? Well, they got those. Officially licensed Marvel games, all of that stuff. Listeners of the Downbeat podcast can get 22% off 1 to 2 displays or 33% off 3 or more by going to displate.com/the Downbeat and use the code Downbeat. It's Aaron Weaver of Wolves in the Throne Room on the Downbeat podcast.
I'm going to drink my ceremonial cacao slurry.
How is it?
It's getting pretty thick at the bottom.
Do you need more water?
No, I'm good. I enjoy the thick brown slurry.
Hello.
What's up, Craig?
That was the most anyone's wanted. Their cans adjusted. I liked it.
I have a very finely tuned ear. All these years of like playing drums without earplugs have left my ears extremely sensitive, finely tuned, and perfectly calibrated.
Do you not use earplugs live?
No, I definitely do.
I was going to say, fuck me.
But I've played drums for, I don't know, starting at 16. I'm 46, so 30 years. And I'd say the first half, I did not wear earplugs. And I had those cheap Sabian B8 Pro hi-hats.
Oh, I know.
And I keep my hats really fucking high, so right at ear level. And I don't know. I'm surprised I can hear as well as I can. But I also think that hearing loss there's a physical thing that's occurring with like whatever the structures inside the ear. But I think it's also a psychological thing. And hearing loss can be mitigated with just rerouting your brain a certain way or like listening through different organs other than your ears.
Wow.
Yeah.
How have you come across that?
Well, as a musician, maybe you've noticed you can like feel music in different places in your body.
Yeah.
You can like hear it with your ears and think about it with your brain, but you can feel it in your guts. You can feel it in your balls, like wherever. You know? You can feel it in your feet.
The frequency... There's a weird, we go straight in on real podcast talk here. Mm-hmm. Frequencies.
Yeah, frequencies.
It's weird. There's a weird thing about it.
It is. Yeah, and I think there's like, the frequency you can quantify, and then there's like a bunch of other stuff that's going on that you can tune into. That's one thing I learned as a recording engineer, because I played drums in the band, but have also in recent years stepped into the recording and engineering and producing role, along with Nathan and Cody, but I kind of take the lead, especially in the tech end. And one thing I learned from Randall Dunn, who recorded Two Hunters, Black Cascade, Celestial Lineage, and Celestite, and Thrice Woven, was to not listen with your ears, but listen with your chest. Like you literally move the organ of apprehension of listening to a different place in your body.
Can you do that quietly? To me, that sounds like that has to be something that's done loud.
I can do it quietly, for sure.
Is that why? That's interesting, because you were actually like spun out by the levels being different in your ears. And I was like, this is really hurting this man.
I know.
That's kind of cool though.
I'm sensitive flower.
No, but it's like, it wasn't, I'm not saying it in a bad way. It was like, I was like, oh, this guy knows what he wants.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, like as a recording, when you're doing recording, it like literally is 1 dB moves, like tiny little moves, but make 10,000 of those moves. And that's what makes it sound right or feel right.
Are you mixing as well?
In the studio?
Yeah.
Yeah, mixing, and on the last EP, mastering.
You mixed and mastered?
Yeah.
Wow, good for you. It sounds great.
Thank you. Yeah, I have no idea. I just watched a few YouTube videos and just fucked with it. Yeah.
That's me.
Dude, YouTube.
How crazy is that?
Yeah. And we make our own videos too now. Like all of the music videos we've made, we just watched YouTube, bought the cameras, and figured it out.
Yeah, same. All of this was just, how do I do this? Mm-hmm. And then you find someone with the vibe, or one of the vibes.
Exactly.
One of the vibes that you want to, not copy, but like be on the same wavelength. Yeah. And then you just look at what they do.
You find your guy, the YouTube guy.
There's a theory of evolution that involves YouTube. I can't remember what it's called, but it's like the human race is evolving at such a higher rate since YouTube was invented, because like if you think of drummers when we were growing up were like good, but now there's like 10-year-olds who are so much better than the best drummer in the world in like 95 or whatever. And it's because of YouTube.
I 100% believe that.
Fucking sick. I'm kind of like excited where we can go.
I am too. I mean, I'm like ultimately a very optimistic person, and I sort of intentionally try to look at things through not rose-colored glasses or to be a Pollyanna, but to vision like good outcomes, like just vision things working out in a good way, whether that's just in my personal life or in the world. It certainly can't hurt. And so one could easily have like very dark and dystopian views about what technology does to our mind, to culture, to the world. But I would rather vision a good outcome.
On the good bit, yeah, because there is some bad bits. There's a lot of bad bits.
There's some demons out there, some demons and sorcerers.
Are you on TikTok?
I mean, I downloaded TikTok like a few months ago just to put on my phone, just to like see what it was.
Yeah.
I'm just not there, man.
No.
I'm not there. And I put in hashtag black metal.
Yeah.
It just became very clear to me that this genre of music does not work on that medium.
Yeah.
It was just an endless scroll of like, did you know that there's this crazy guy in Norway named Varg that killed this guy and it's fucking crazy. So the only thing that kind of makes it through this medium of the TikTok screen is the most like sensationalistic and tabloid surface level crust of something. Maybe in other genres of music or other areas of life and culture, it can be useful, but I don't know. It doesn't seem to work for like underground, psychedelic, wild music.
It barely works for even the podcast. It's only the sensationalized stuff that gets picked up, because you're far more likely to leave a comment if you disagree with something. So the more open, that is my beef with technology. The more open you leave a conversation, or deliberately like goading an argument out of people, or they put the clickbait bit first, put a statement that maybe you don't even believe, but then 30 seconds in, you tell everyone you don't believe that. Everyone's already left the comments, which is kind of poisonous.
It is. Yeah, I mean, these are just pitfalls to be avoided.
Let's just use it to make cool black metal. I want to know more about your mixing, mastering. Like, did you have a guy on YouTube? Have you got a guy in your head that is like, that's the videos I watched?
No, for like mixing, absolutely not.
No. What about even just knowing what button to turn on?
No, I do it entirely by color. So I just work, we have kind of a hybrid studio. Like our older records were recorded on 2-inch tape and mixed on a console. live in this very old school way. But since maybe Celestial Lineage, like we'll happily do overdubs in Pro Tools and do little bits of editing. And I record in Ableton nowadays, which is a really powerful songwriting tool. Works good for mixing as well. It's not, of course, oriented towards drums and guitars and this sort of thing, but it works for me. So no, I don't get too technical with it. Like I just have a pretty limited supply of plugins and then some really nice outboard gear and analog gear, and literally just turn the knobs intuitively until the music turns the right color.
Sometimes having less is super beneficial for
Definitely,
that.
100%.
I can't believe you mix in Ableton.
Yeah, no, I don't think
anyone
does.
I don't think anyone mixes in Ableton. Like from what record on are we talking mixed on Ableton?
Primordial Arcana was the first one because that was the first record we did just by ourselves.
Yeah.
And yeah, we wrote it in Ableton because I do electronic music production and do my own sort of weird electronic stuff on the side as kind of my experimental proving ground for ideas that I can bring into Wolves. And Ableton is great software for that. And so we did our demoing in Ableton and then always kind of planned on switching to Pro Tools and just never did it.
Just because you knew your way around it, you knew what you're working with.
Yeah.
That's really cool.
And actually, now that I think about it, because we were like, all right, when we did Primordial Arcana, we were like, well, we can definitely engineer this ourselves and record everything, but there's no way we can fucking mix it because we just can't do it. That's just going to be too hard and we won't have it sound the way we want it to sound. So I rendered all the stems and sent them to like a very highly regarded, well-known metal mixer. And he messed with it for a really long time and got it back. And when I heard it, like my heart was broken. Like literally, I remember the moment, like my jaw just dropped to the ground and I stepped outside in a daze and it was a summer day kind of like this. And I just wandered around in the woods like, what the fuck? Our record is ruined. Like, what are we going to do? Because all of the feeling in it,
the soul
was like removed and replaced with something else that was utterly alien to me. And so the three of us decided like, we have to do this ourselves. Just got to figure it out.
How long did it take to go from
months?
Yeah, not mixing to
because I never mixed anything before, apart from like some weird noises or like a techno track.
Yeah.
I did 100 mixes of the first track on Primordial Arcana.
100.
Yeah, over 100, and just kept on doing it until I couldn't make it any better, and then it got to a place that felt good and looked good in my mind's eye. And then that was the template going forward.
What's that song? 7 minutes long or something?
Yeah, something like that.
7 times 100. So
yeah. Well, I was just like, it's one of those moments when you like level up in terms of your craft.
Yeah.
And I would just sleep in the studio. I would just like work and then fall asleep on the couch listening to the mix and then like wake up like, what the fuck? And then just work on it all day and did that for, weeks and weeks.
And then as you did another record and then an EP, that it got quicker, or are you still doing 100?
Well, there is Primordial Arcana and then the EP. So it's just been these two, right? Yeah. Primordial Arcana. And then this EP is kind of like the summation. It's like the EP that accompanies Primordial Arcana.
Oh, that's what I was going to get into.
Yeah.
Why an EP?
We're just a big fan, because we're from the 90s and we're just a big fan of EPs. Like there's
album EP vibe, yeah.
Yeah, like fucking Jar of Flies,
Yeah.
It like goes with Facelift. Making a record can be just such an epic undertaking. Personally, spiritually, as a craftsperson, like it felt like there's still work to be done.
Yeah.
Like in that milieu, in the universe, in the world of that record, there was still kind of unfinished business. And so the EP is an opportunity to kind of like close the magic circle. So it's just done. It's fucking in the can. And the path is open for the next whatever that is.
What is next?
We're on tour right now, Craig.
Yeah, I know. Yeah. I know this.
Yeah. And so we're like, you're
still in the zone.
We're in the live band zone, thinking about light shows and tempos and all this kind of stuff.
Weird shit on stage.
Yeah, and just like getting the atmosphere right. But as soon as we get home, we've got months blocked out just for writing for another record.
Do you feel like this tour will close the chapter of the EP and the album?
100%.
Are you one of those people? Because I definitely am, where I need to put 100% of my fiber into whatever it is.
Yeah.
And then when it's done, exactly the same, I'm like, okay, next thing. And then I sometimes don't even when it's like, if I'm doing a new album or whatever, I won't even practice the old songs until I have to play them live again, because it feels like a backward step. If I'm like, oh, I better just brush up on this song, and it just takes me back to where my brain was when I was writing that, and that's not good for progress.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, we are just laser focused on whatever we're doing in the moment. And it's out of necessity because it's such a big project. Like the live show is pretty epic in scale for a, little punk band like ourselves. And we kind of do it all. Like we guide the whole thing and create the creative vision and hold the space with our crew, of course. And it requires just complete focus and commitment.
When you do a tour, do you find it hard with such a vast back catalogue of songs that are really long?
Yeah.
You find it hard to pick a set list?
It's a challenge.
How long is the set?
It's like 70 minutes. And any more than that is like too much.
Yeah. I feel the same.
Yeah. I think it's important to like leave the audience like not like completely destroyed. Like there's still like a little bit left.
At least Wolves has this ebb and flow throughout. Like,
yeah.
I feel like when we do a tour, like we're a fucking metalcore band. It's like, in my head, I'm like, no one wants that for 60 minutes.
They don't.
Not even like 70. No, we did 70 on the last headliner, and the whole time I was like, no one wants this. So you can't expect people to go nuts for 70 minutes.
But to your point, making a set list is a real challenge. And as you mentioned, we do want it to ebb and flow. Like we want the correct amount of tension and space and a narrative to be woven. It's the same way as sequencing a record or writing a record, because as you probably have noticed, like the records really do go on a journey and are meant to be listened to from beginning to end. And a live performance is just the same. And it's always a mystery as to what songs are going to work. Like we always think we're like, this set list is going to be cool. And we play a song and we're like, man, that song doesn't have any chi to it. It's got no energy. Like it's just not right.
After playing it live, you would notice that, or practice.
At rehearsal.
Yeah.
Yeah, we can tell in rehearsal if a song, which should intellectually work really, really good, just doesn't have the magic,
Are you talking about a new song, or like even revisiting an old song in that set list?
Both.
Yeah.
Like a song that worked last time in the same spot, just all of a sudden it feels like it's been wrung dry.
Yeah.
Like all of the, I don't know, the magic's been wrung out of it. Or at least it's like taking a nap.
Good for you for not just putting it in anyway, though.
How could we, though?
You say that because you're a very spiritual, you're a real magician.
It's not even that. It's like, if it's not fun, it's like fundamentally it comes down to like, is this fun?
Yeah, but I mean, if the crowd still want it, you're picking your vibe over theirs.
Yes.
Which is why I'm saying good for you, because most people just totally wouldn't do that.
Well, cool. Thanks. I'll take that as a compliment.
No, it was definitely a compliment. We're off on the wrong foot here. I think if you pick one song from every record, it's going to be over 70 minutes, surely.
Yes.
So do you ever get people that are like, you didn't play X song from whatever? And then also touring a new album, you obviously have to promote that. So you must have 2 songs from the EP on this.
We're playing the first 2 metal tracks off the EP, which are super fun to play. And I wasn't sure how they translate live, but they're like kind of my favorite songs to play. I realized that Cody somehow turned Wolves in the Throne Room into like early Catatonia, like just some like mid-tempo beats and like some like low, heavy goth vocals. They're really good. But we really do prioritize, I guess it's a balance, because we do very much prioritize the fans' experience. Like we always think about, man, people really are going to want to hear stuff off the record that they got into, the one that turned them on to the band. And we just try to strike the balance. The set we're playing tonight is the first time, is going to be a different set than we've been playing on tour, because we're bringing in a few songs that we'll play at Fortress Fest tomorrow for the 200 set, where we're playing 200s in its entirety.
Yeah, I'm really... Oh, wait. So that means today you're bringing in some more 200s in preparation for that?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
I'm stoked on that.
Me too.
I'm absolutely stoked on that. So on 200s, there's... I can't remember her name.
The singer?
Yeah.
Jessica Kinney.
Mm-hmm. Have I seen you play a song that had her on it, but without her on it?
Yeah, a bunch.
Yeah.
Yeah, because she's on Celestial Lineage as well.
Yes.
So we've just had to like...
Great intro.
Yeah.
It's one of my favorite intros of all time, by the way.
I've considered singing it, but it's a little bit out of my range. But for years, we've toured without her, and we just make it work, and it works. We are playing Cleansing tonight, and that's been in the set, and Galen is singing her part.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, like some parts like work to transpose to the male voice, and like it feels authentic and true and good. And some of the other stuff, it just doesn't work. We're like, this needs to be sung. If not by her, then by another soprano.
Oh, wow. So I get to hear Cleansing tonight.
You do. With Galen's lead vocal. It's like he's nailing it.
That's fucking cool.
Yeah.
I'm stoked on that. If you don't know Wolves in the Throne Room, my personal, again, like you said, it's the album that got you into the band is always the one that you tell people. But like as a piece of music, I always say it to people who are like, they don't know where to start with black metal.
Yeah.
200's Wolves in the Throne Room is my go.
Cool. Thank you.
I don't go Mayhem. For me, I'm like, Wolves in the Throne Room is so musical compared to like, you know, when it was just who can be the most evil. Mm-hmm. Like, don't get me wrong. Like, I love some Mayhem songs. Love Emperor. Like,
I love Emperor.
I had Ishan in that chair. I don't know if it'll be out by now. That's a spoiler if it hasn't. Big brain on him.
Definitely.
But Two Hunters is like gentle song, crippling black metal song, gentle song, half and half song.
Yeah, totally. It is.
And I just love it. It's my sleep record.
Nice. Thank you.
And I wake up at the same, it's the weirdest thing. I wake up at the same point every time. It's almost like it's like my brain wants me to wake up and hear it. It's to hear just the end. When you can hear, what's the lyric? Let me see if I can get the lyric and be a true. I will lay down my bones amongst the rocks and roots.
Nailed it.
But there's another line after it. You don't need to remember it.
I remember it.
I thought I could remember it, but I wake up at that point every time, and it's like a little emotional bath for the brain, and then I go back to sleep. It's crazy. In my bunk, it's almost every night.
Wow. That's amazing. I mean, I'm not going to lie. It's a good record. Like, it's one of those moments when just everything came together perfectly. Like, we'd been working really hard as like a DIY band, just like working all those songs out in basements and squats and just nasty punk houses. And it was our first time working with Randall, who brought a different perspective. He was like, why don't you guys try this ancient, crusty, broken Korg synthesizer? Or Jessica should sing on the song, my friend who, you know, would bring something fresh to it. He brought in a lot of interesting session musicians that all contributed to the sound. And it was just a very interesting time personally for all of us. Like, I remember like where I was in my mind at the time. It was like a pivotal moment in my life in general.
Yeah.
Just a lot of things were changing in the way I perceived the world, and that's like woven into the music. So I feel really grateful for that record because that's where we really found our sound and like found our voice. And it's possible to kind of carry that forward. And not every artist or musician or band has that. Like this moment where like lightning is captured in a bottle.
Yeah.
If treated with respect, that can guide you for the rest of your time as an artist.
And it has like, because the vibe from that record you have brought into later records, which is interesting because obviously Randall wasn't involved and now it just lives in you, which is really cool. Like the synths on the EP are amazing, or what like whatever you're using. I don't know if it's real.
It's a lot of stuff.
Is it Ableton?
No. The secret weapon on the EP and Primordial Arcana is Nathan is a collector of 90s romplers.
Oh,
so
real.
Like the strings are a Roland JV 1080, and he's got like all of like the rare expansion cards, like the symphonic expansion cards.
Yeah.
I mean, I've got a few VST kind of like strings and stuff that I'll use, but 90% of what you hear is 90s romplers or just like analog synths. And a lot of samples as well. Like I put a lot of stuff into like old Akai samplers and then just play that on the keyboard.
And then so guys, I don't know how that stuff even gets recorded. So if you're recording from a Roland, is it going out of a speaker and then mic'd up? Or is it go straight in? Yeah,
it's just like if you have a synth, there's like a stereo output, just a cable, and you just plug that into your preamp just the way you would a microphone. Oh, same thing.
I didn't know.
It's just a signal.
I literally had no idea. I have no idea how that shit works. Because every time I don't know, I've tried to mess around with synth stuff, and every time it just sounds too, because it's so polished, like VST I'm talking, because it's so polished. The key switches or whatever, like anytime I'm like, I'll change note, it's such a dramatic change from one note to the other one because it's not a human being moving its even moving its fingers, because I've just put it in as this, and I just gave up.
Yeah, it's an art to it. It's an art to make it sound like different, because a lot of people are using the same stuff. There's only so many synthesizer plugins, and a lot of them are emulating only a certain amount of like vintage synths. And so we've got some tricks to make it sound like not other bands.
And it works. It absolutely works. While we're on the subject, I know we covered it a little bit in the last podcast, but this is essentially is a brand new podcast really, because we got the whole viewership now. If you
is that my camera?
That's your camera right there. Owl Lodge.
Owl Lodge is the studio, yeah.
UK accent saying owl is so crazy. Owl Lodge, is it? Yeah, go on then. That's the studio. Talk to me about that, because we did talk about it a little bit on the last pod.
Well, we're just obsessive control freaks, and we always want to bring it more and more in-house. Like anything, like whether it's like management stuff, like the business side, like who do you go on tour with? Like who's whatever, just like buying the plane tickets. Like we want to do all that stuff because we're so particular about like minutia that other people just wouldn't know. They just wouldn't be able to get it right. So we want the vibe to be just fucking right. I like a 2 p.m. flight out of SeaTac.
Booking flights, no one gives a fuck as much as you.
Exactly.
I mean, anything, but yeah.
They're not going to be there at 4 a.m., loading in literally 30 road cases.
Someone did this for me yesterday. Someone else booked my flight yesterday. It was 6 a.m. And then at the fucking layover, that other flight got cancelled. I'm the same. 1:45 is my one from Glasgow. Give me that. There's no stress the night before. Anyway, we're not talking about planes.
Recording studio.
Yes.
Maybe I mentioned this in the last podcast. The genesis of the recording studio came out of a crisis. We were going to record Celestial Lineage. We did the basic tracks with Randall at, I think, a Vast in Seattle, which is it's Soundgarden's studio. So really beautiful API console and 2-inch tape and all the good stuff. And then our process back then was to record the drums and basic guitars live in a nice studio and then do overdubs at Randall's place, which is a, home studio kind of vibe. We went on tour and then we got home and it was time to do overdubs. So we call Randall and say, hey, Randall, we're coming up to Seattle tomorrow. Everything's cool. We're going to do, our 100 tracks of fuzzy guitar overdubs, and the trolls and the orcs will come and bang on things, and no response. And days go by. And finally he calls and he's like, he had like a huge crisis in his personal life with his partner who he's partnered with in the studio, and he was basically homeless and didn't have a studio. And we were like, well, fuck, we have to finish this record. And so we just bought a few pieces of gear, and he came down and moved into Nathan's guest room. And we just made the record there. And it was just, at the time, just like a bare bones, drywalled, white-walled shop with, I think we bought an Apollo, like the rack mount Apollo.
Yeah.
And just a handful of mics, and just like did it.
Drums and everything.
No drums. So drums and guitars
were already done
they
were doing it. This was the overdub design with you.
Yeah, recorded on the tape, then dumped into Pro Tools. And again, it's like, I kind of love that. Like it's just like that adversity and like suffering that he was going through, and I remember I was going through a lot of stuff in my personal life at the time. That's like woven into the music.
Yeah. And
if as an artist you can just like let that in, like let that suffering in and let it blossom as art, I really do think that can be shared with people. I think it can that's what art does. It helps you, like.
As long as Bob Rock isn't producing.
Even the Black Album, man.
No, the Black Album's amazing.
It's amazing.
In my head, I'm thinking of how much shit all of Metallica was going through, and then Saint Anger came out. That's what I was thinking of.
Yeah. I mean, I'm not a fan of Saint Anger, but I do love the movie.
The movie is one of my favorite movies of all time. That's in my head, and actually the song Saint Anger, I like the song Saint Anger.
It's so raw.
The rest of the record, I can live without, but there was so much going on in their personal lives there. Mm-hmm. There was a good record there.
Yeah.
I just feel like they needed someone that wasn't a yes man to go, here you go. Or to just do it themselves. They should have done a Wolves in the Throne Room.
They should have. But whatever.
It would have sounded better.
Yeah, that record sounds crazy.
It's insane.
There's some cocaine decisions.
Oh, definitely.
So anyway, we just had to make a studio. We were like in a really tough situation. We had to, and then we realized, oh, this is what we want. Like we want to have this control. We want to be able to take time to work stuff out instead of being in the pressure cooker where we have like 3 days to do everything. And so for every record after that, for Celestite and Thrice Woven and Primordial Arcana, we would do a months of construction because I'm a good carpenter and builder, and Nathan and Cody can contribute a lot as well. And we just would do construction work, just tool belts, saws, paint, sheetrock.
What kind of stuff? Like,
Just making the space really atmospheric and beautiful. Like we cut down some cedar trees in the backyard because Nathan lives right up against a big cedar forest, and had them milled up and used all that wood to make all of the acoustic paneling, like the diffusion panels.
Amazing.
Just made it like really functional. Just built like, we need a shelf right here where we keep like the power adapter for this thing. Just like built all that shit. So it's like a fucking submarine or something. It's like a spaceship. It's set up just to make Wolves in the Throne Room records.
And there must be something about putting that much of yourself into that, like even just the shells and stuff.
Yeah.
Must be like an experience just being there.
Yeah, I think so. And like, it's for me, like I love it. I said, love being in there. It's like, I think with anything you make with your hands, like you put your love and intention into it and just know like, oh, when I'm using this desk, I'm going to be making music. It's like the thing that I love and I'm so blessed to be able to do for a living, and just to like think about that. Like when I'm sanding the desk, to like think about that, what it's going to be used for, and just put good feeling into it.
That's real magic.
It is. That's all magic is. Like it's not anything mysterious or spooky. It's just that, I think.
Just putting your intention into your work. Mm-hmm. So you have an analog desk?
No, that was one of Randall's great pieces of advice. I was very stuck on the idea of tape and a big old format analog console. And I bought one. I bought it was an old Harrison console, like the kind that Thriller was mixed on. And it used to belong to Universal Studios. It was like a sidecar they'd roll in to do extra mixing.
Oh,
and
cool.
They mixed a lot of cool like movie sound on it. And it was just a nightmare. It was like crackling and causing trouble, and faders go in and out. And he was like, dude, sell that fucking thing. Get like the best possible AD converters, get the best possible preamps, and just accept that you live in the modern world.
Yeah.
Like you're not making a record in the 80s or the 90s, and just make art with what works now. And that was like the best advice. Like I bought the Burl Mothership. It's like a rack mount modular system of AD converters. And it's just the best. And like I never think about it because I'm the kind of person, if I know something could be better, like I obsess about it.
Same.
And with that, I bought it 10 years ago, and I'm just like, I'm done. Like I'm never going to think about converters again as long as I live. I bought like the best preamps, and I'm like, I'm never going to think about that again. I just plug my shit in and it works.
How many preamps have you got?
We can do 16 channels.
Yeah, perfect. Absolutely perfect.
We did drums. We did the drums for Primordial Arcana. We did there.
The drums on that record sound incredible.
Thanks.
I remember, I think I hit you up when it came up, and I was like, woo! I think I asked you, I was like, who mixed this? And you were like, oh, that's me. And I was like, fuck yeah, let's go.
Yeah, thanks.
You know what's funny though? Even though like, you were saying, except that you live in the modern world or whatever, and I'm sure there's elitists somewhere that don't play an instrument, have never made a piece of music in their life, that think like black metal has to be like disgusting or whatever. But it's like back in the early 90s, a lot of them were still recording that on very expensive stuff. It was just like, not mic'd up well.
They wanted it to sound good.
Yeah.
They wanted it to sound like a super high production heavy metal record, but they didn't have the wherewithal or the resources.
Yeah.
Like I think the Mayhem record, I forget which one, but I was just talking to someone in Norway about this. The fellow that recorded the recent Dark Throne records, he was spilling the tea.
Oh, really?
And he's like, yeah, they wanted it to sound like
Metallica.
Or like some like Judas Priest record, but they just had some like weird reggae guy like mixing it who like didn't know the first fucking thing about a guitar. And it
like when someone else does your sound at like a festival.
Exactly. And we've had like in years past before we tour with our own dude, have had like the reggae guy or like the guy who's still like coming down from the happy hardcore party in a tracksuit, like mixing our record. And that's what, in retrospect, the Mayhem record sounds like.
Yeah. There's no scoop on the kick drum. Just give me, give me every single frequency.
Yeah, it's raw.
But what's funny is like you using Ableton is actually weirdly incredibly black metal because no one does it. It's and respectfully, because you're doing a great job, it's fucking insane.
It's caused problems.
Really?
Because Primordial Arcana, I was vexed with like some very subtle phasing things.
On the drums?
I have a trick to deal with the drums, but it was on guitars. Because we really layer our guitars. Whatever the coding is in Ableton just isn't perfectly tuned towards like rock and roll guitars.
Yeah.
And there was a few times when this like phasing stuff would happen, and I spent like weeks tracking all those things down.
What? And it was printed into the songs, or it was just while you were listening back and bouncing?
It was a ghost that would come and go. Yeah, just like something in the code was like, I don't really care about that level of accuracy.
Yeah.
But for guitars, it mattered.
Yeah, that's crazy. I've literally never heard of anyone doing it.
Yeah, I've considered switching back to Pro Tools, but I'm so fast in Ableton now.
Yeah.
And I just like let go of so many like ideas about how things need to be in music, in life, wherever. Like it has to be this way. I don't know. A lot of those things have just dissolved with time. And the thing that is important is just getting the feeling out, like getting the art out. And whatever the sharpest, most effective tool is, I will use that tool.
Yeah. And actually having less at your disposal once the idea is out is better for the art overall. Because the amount of times, if like back in the day when I've done stuff and I've downloaded like plugin pack, fucking waves, 500 plugins, and then you get some out, track it, and like, oh, this sounds good. It's like, I wonder if I put this on it.
Yeah.
Wonder if I put this on it. I think that's better. And then you go back to the other one. No, 100 mixes. 100 mixes later.
That's the problem with in like mixing. You just can't do it with your mind. You can't be like, does this sound good? Let me think about whether it sounds good or not. That's just the road to chaos.
Do you have anyone you bounce the mixes off?
Yeah, Nathan and Cody.
Anyone outside of the circle?
No.
No, like producer friend that you just go,
no.
Nice.
No. Yeah, like that's why we can do it ourselves and can do a lot of the stuff that we do ourselves, because we all have different ears and different perspectives and come at the art from like oftentimes polar opposites. And at the same time, we trust each other that it's not just like an ego thing, like, hey, that guitar doesn't sound good. Yeah. Like that person is saying that because they genuinely feel that for the music, for the record. And so because there's three of us, we can self-produce without getting in a spiral of mixing forever or never accomplishing anything. It's like the Chinese democracy thing. Yeah. Like you just leave Axl by himself with yes men. It takes, 10 years to make a record. Like we know when to cut it off. We'll mix it 100 times, but when it comes to the 100th mix and it's good, we'll know it's good. And then we'll stop.
It's interesting. Like, I don't think my band, respectfully, including myself, could work without a producer. Like, it's cool that you obviously, not that we don't respect each other, but like, I feel like we would just continue to go on and on and on and on and on without a producer, or we will have two ideas. Like, have you got someone that makes the call if two of you are arguing? Does the other one make the call? Because
we vote.
We need the producer.
Yeah.
So it is. You've got the third.
Yes.
Perfect.
If it was just me and Nathan, yes, we would argue and probably like come to blows more than we do.
Real fisticuffs.
No, I mean we haven't like fought physically since we were kids. Probably. Yeah. It's been a while.
Yeah.
But yeah, having three, I mean, because you can vote.
Yeah.
And then you just go with the vote.
Yeah, so we got 4. That's rough for a vote.
Yeah, that's tough.
You can't, because then you just get a tiebreaker.
Yeah.
That's why we need the producer. And then the cool thing about that is we work with the same, Will Putney, work with the same producer the entire time. We love him and trust everything he does. So if I have an idea and he goes no, I just go, okay.
It's funny. Nathan and I were talking right before this tour, thinking about the next record. And he was like, you know what? I think the next record we should work with someone just for the basic tracks. We should work with Steve Albini. I was like, what? Really? Okay. Yeah, I can see that. And then
I would have loved it, but you're a bit late.
Yeah, he just passed away like 2 days after.
There were some records that I love and I had no idea that he produced until I saw people posting. There was like a thing going on Twitter. It was just like RIP Steve Albini, and they posted their 4 albums, and I was like, I didn't know he did the Mono albums. You know that band? I fucking love that band. Mm-hmm. Didn't know he did those records.
Yeah.
I listened to them all the time.
Well, he had that workman-like approach, like he's not a producer, like a recordist or something. He had some like special word for it, with the jumpsuit.
Down to the boiler suit, yeah.
Yeah, like I'm just a mechanic. Like all I'm doing is just doing this very technical thing. I think that's a little bit of a like bullshit.
Really?
I think he's also like an artist and like working magic in this very
respectful
way.
bullshit. You don't think it's a bit.
No. I think it's just like his way of working. But I mean, he's definitely an artist and definitely a visionary.
Yeah, definitely.
And creates the space. Like that's
exactly what we were talking about.
Like he literally created the studio where the stuff could occur, and it's like holding the space where bands can be at their best. That's not just being a mechanic.
Yeah, I read an interview, like a posthumous interview, obviously, but it was like where he'd said at some point in his career, if he knew he liked a band and they came to record, if there was a song that he didn't get, he made the decision to stop being the guy that was like, what if you tried this, and then put his own ideas into it and just say, I don't get this. If you guys get it, cool, let's carry on. Yeah. And that's probably why some of the weirdest moments in music came out on those records. Those Neurosis records he did.
Yeah, Neurosis.
So good.
Yeah. Have we talked about Neurosis before?
I don't think so.
I'm a big fan.
Me too.
Yeah, that was the band that like probably opened me up the most to the way that I see music now and what music is, or what it is for me. The way I approach it was, I credit Neurosis for that. Nathan and I used to work at the All Ages space in Olympia. He would have been 14, I would have been 16. It was like the DIY space, the Capitol Theater backstage, which is where like, there's like tons of metal and punk shows, but it was also where like Riot Girl came from, like the first like Bratmobile show and all these sort of things. So it was a very eclectic scene. And there was a guy that worked there, Jeff Bartone. He was like the classic punk sound guy, like acerbic, old, bitter, drunken man.
Nice.
But he was a mentor when I look back. And
what year is this? Sorry.
This would have been, this was on the Through Silver and Blood tour. I want to say 96. And Neurosis came through, and we would help with load in and help kind of set things up. And I just remember so clearly them arriving in their like beat the shit van, and like all these dudes, shaved heads, beards, crazy tattoos, like load in, and they're just like on fire. Like they were probably on LSD. Like they were definitely doing acid like regularly on that tour. And they all just come in and start doing push-ups and just like crazy like masculine like exercises. And then it was just mind-blowing. Like, what the fuck is this? We'd never seen anything like it. Like we'd seen a lot of like different punk stuff and metal stuff, but they were doing something that was different. It was like, yeah, it's punk and it's metal, but it's also something else.
Yeah.
It has this like mythical quality or magical. It was like shimmering with magic or with a vibe that was unlike anything else that I'd seen. And with the visuals and the,
did they have the projectionist guy then?
The
I don't know
projection.
when he started. I think I saw his last show. It was like Hellfest 2006. It was unbelievable.
The before Josh, what's his name? Josh Graham. Yeah. It was like the original analog projection.
So cool.
It was a trip, and that really opened me up to like, oh, like there's music, and then there's this other level to it. That's happening kind of like beyond what I can perceive. And I guess that's where I've been like trying to get for the last
I think
30
you got
years.
it, because I love Neurosis and I love your band.
Oh, thanks.
And I've never made the connection. I never listen to one of your songs and think, oh, Neurosis influence. But like you listen to ISIS and go, oh, that's Neurosis. Not the militant extremist group.
No.
The excellent band, R.I.P.
Yeah, they had that was a bad stroke of luck, man. But also it seems like they were like ending anyway.
I think they did a one-off, and they called themselves Celestial, which was obviously the first record. But like, I wish that band would come back. The Neurosis thing is sad as well. Let's not talk about that.
No, I won't mention it. Yeah, that's a bummer.
I'd like to see. You can't fucking do it without Scott Kelly.
No way.
It sucks.
No, that would be so weird. This wouldn't be cool.
I'd like to see what Steve Von Til does next.
Well, I was just checking out his new Harvest Man record.
Well, I haven't checked that out.
It's really cool.
Cool.
I just heard a clip on my phone, but it was one of the first things I've heard recently. Like, oh, I'm going to buy that and listen to it. We're playing, when we get home, we have a few weeks off, and then we're playing the Cascadian Midsummer Festival, which is like the local black metal hippie gathering south of Olympia in the woods. And Steve's going to be there.
Cool.
And so I'm hoping that he can sing the lyrics for Old Ones, which is on Thrice Woven.
Wow, yeah.
Yeah. That was like a huge honor to like have him do the lyrics on that song. Yeah, he's like actually like an elder, you know?
Yeah.
Like he's like actually like, you know, a generation older, and you can like look up to him as just a fucking mensch.
Do you think you would get him to like feature like on a record?
We did on Thrice Woven.
On Thrice Woven?
Yeah. The Old Ones are with us.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
You know what? This happened before with Cult of Luna as well. And I was like, you got a real good Mark Lanigan impression. And like, Johannes was just like, that's him.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, I don't know. Because in my head, these people are untouchable.
Yeah.
Like, and no disrespect to either band, but I'm just like, fuck, that's so cool.
Yeah.
I always think it's someone just doing a real good.
No, that was Steve. You like if you know, after the podcast, if you want to, you can listen to the track with this newfound knowledge. The first part where he kind of does his invocation is just him on his iPhone. As I understand that he has some like magic stone circle outside in his property in Idaho, and he just recorded it on his iPhone. And then in his studio did the acoustic guitar and the lyrics in the middle part of the song. Did this beautiful invocation prayer thing. It's amazing. Yeah, so I'm really hoping he can do it with us live at this show.
Yeah.
I think he will. He's a cool guy.
Yeah, he must. Surely. Come on, Steve.
He's a badass, man. I just want to just like speak for him. He just like runs shit like a boss, you know? In this running a label, like, you know, kind of running the business side of Neurosis. Like he's the one figuring shit out.
Yeah.
Like they arrive at a hotel, like he's the one like checking in or like making sure that everything's going to work properly. And he's got a full-time job. He's a school teacher.
Is he? I didn't know that. Yeah. Imagine Steve Von Till's your like English teacher.
Mr. Von Till.
Mr. Von Till.
I think he teaches like 4th or 5th grade.
In my head, I imagine him doing
school.
it really slowly with like a gruff voice and maybe some light doom in the background.
I don't know. I don't think anyone knows at his school.
Wow, I didn't fucking know that.
Yeah.
You just doxed him.
He's a cool guy.
You touched on touring a little bit there. I do want to talk about touring. Do you find there's a difference for you guys in the US versus the UK in terms of crowds?
No.
None whatsoever?
No.
It's interesting.
It feels the same. The crowd last night in London like just felt so good to me. It was like I looked out and I saw like my people, like some like old goths, and then some just like young, just freak kids, like clearly just on a fucking trip.
Yeah.
There were people who were obviously on psychedelics.
Nice.
There was couples making out, because that's when we know it's a good show, when there's people who are just like fucking snogging each other.
Snogging!
Yeah,
hey!
Snogging.
Fuck yeah.
Men crying.
What was the venue?
Bald men crying. Yep. Like patch wearing, black metal, just like hardcore black
You
metal
got the
people.
full spectrum.
Yeah, I just love that so much. And it's the same sort of audience in the States.
Yeah, maybe the black metal is exclusive for that because we got real different crowds in both places.
Okay.
And actually Europe cares more.
Okay.
But I never thought, I thought for most people have a similar thing where they're just like, yeah, it's a bit different.
It feels the same. And part of it is that like we really kind of like Neurosis. We roll in and we just fucking take over. Like we're just like, move that, do this, bring in our crazy smoke machines.
Yeah.
Or, you know.
What stage stuff you got on this one? You've always got some weird shit on stage.
We have some weird shit.
Respectfully weird.
Cody's like a real good plant wizard. Like he's really tuned into plants in a cool way, like trees and flowers and things. And so he's in charge of making sure that the microphone stands are always adorned with certain
they always
plants
look so cool.
that he finds in various gas stations and parking lots along the way.
Is that where they come from?
Wherever.
You don't fly them in?
No.
What about bones? You've had some bones before.
We've had bones.
Are you flying the bones in, or did you go and pick them up from the butchers?
There's issues with customs with bones.
Watang got completely fucked on that.
I know, yeah. We can't fuck with bones for that reason. The man will not let us bring our bones.
Because of woke, we can't get bones abroad.
For real. The woke agenda has
taken the bones from us.
Have taken our bones. Yeah, we always do something insane. Like one of our first tours in Europe, we demanded our tour manager pull over, like this very dry German tour manager, pull over and like help us find a stump. So we just went into a forest and found this massive fucking stump.
Dug it out.
Yeah. And he was like, you people are fucking insane. We're like, we can't play without the stump, dude. But in all seriousness, like, I mean, the music comes out of the earth for me. Like the music's inspired by earth spirits or my experience with places and plants and animals. And that's a really beautiful part about touring is like tuning in to what's here.
Oh, you really meant you can't play without the stump?
I mean, we could, but it'd be like, missing a certain like je ne sais quoi.
Have you got a je ne sais quoi on this, or is this tour you got the stump?
We don't have a stump on this tour.
No stump?
No.
We can get a stump. We got time.
It's okay. We're happy with what we got. On this tour, like for the first time, we have like a really good light guy.
Nice.
That's been our like number one struggle in life is getting the lights right. In the US, we hired a lighting guy and he was a fucking piece of shit.
Really?
That guy sucked.
Straight to the camera.
Straight up. You sucked.
Why?
He just didn't care.
Oh,
like
no.
he had this attitude like, man, I'm usually in a bigger nightliner.
Oh, classic.
But I have some compassion for the fellow. Clearly he was like going through some like personal fucking thing and was like bringing that into his work environment. But it sucked for us.
Yeah.
Like he kind of like brought the show down like
It can
10%.
really ruin the show if the lights are bad.
It wasn't bad, but it was just so uninspired. It was like literally just like, you could just tell he's just doing this.
Yeah.
But the dude who's doing lights in this tour is like a fan of the band. He's like young and he has this like a vision. He like gets our vision. We're like, yeah.
Yeah, that's what we need.
And it adds so much.
We had that, the last headline tour we did, same thing, a first light guy that was like amazing. And we hit him up beforehand and we were like, what if every time the guitar bends, the lights bend? And he was like, yeah, I'm into that. And then like night one, it's just like.
Yeah, it's cool. Yeah, especially for our band because it's atmospheric, right? It's like creating a space and like enveloping the entire space with the magic that we're weaving for that night. And we want it to be activating all the senses.
Do you play with a click?
Yeah, with sometime for part of the set, yeah.
What?
Yeah, I love playing with the click.
I love it. It's the best.
For me, because I'm like a very like groovy drummer. Some people would say I'm a bad drummer. I love the challenge of taking this very rigid click and then just like warping it and like bending it and making it as just like bending it to my will. I learned that from like one of my favorite like drummers is the RZA, Wu-Tang producer. That was like another really influential sound because if you or like whatever, J Dilla or something, like you listen to the beat and you analyze it, and even though it's an MPC looping or an ASR 10 looping, like I still like the snare is going to be there. No. Like, why isn't the snare there? And it's because they're like fucking warping time and space.
Yeah,
they're taking this
the push and the pull.
Yeah, they're taking an MPC metronome and making it like bending the time in between the clicks.
There's a real art to doing that as well, like mastering the push and the pull without being out of time.
Yeah,
and making sure you don't push too much that just pushes you off the beat and just gradually get faster and faster.
I'm always in the danger of like falling off the back.
Oh, really? Oh, so I have this conversation all the time.
I'm very
I'm a frontsman. Yeah. I am so early. I'm so early.
Yeah.
I would love your problem.
It's a problem because you fall off the back and then you're just in the pit.
Yeah, but until the fall off, being a backsman is way groovier than being a frontsman.
I'm pretty groovy. I like to groove.
I've tried everything to like reinforce like a fake like pullback. I tried getting fucked up before I played.
Yeah.
Like there's nothing. My brain just works just slightly ahead.
Well, the way not to spill the, not to get too technical, but the way I do the click track is we play the song like exactly the way we want it to be. And then I map that like exactly.
Yeah.
And so the click track is almost like, it's like, oh yeah, that's a really good idea. That's exactly what I would have done.
Yeah.
Because I did.
So we do have that because when we track, if there's a ring out that needs to hang, we'll drop it 2 BPM or whatever. The chorus needs to get faster. It goes up 3-4 BPM, but we don't like map like a crazy thing.
My tempo map looks like this.
Yeah. A lot of people always like wonder with Stray. They're like, oh, you don't play to a click, do you? Because of that, because we are up and down, not as much as you guys. But like I find that's the best of both worlds because I get to play with the click. I get to play the same every night. Like I get to, if I've got more adrenaline one day, the click is going to tell me like, you need to calm the fuck down. Or vice versa, if I need to pick it up. Audience gets a good experience.
Yes.
But then there is the ebb and flow of some tempo changes.
The audience, that's one of the main reasons we do it because I hate it when bands like change their music from the recorded version. Like when Metallica plays like really fucking fast, I don't think that's cool. Or when Hetfield like changes the vocal phrasing, I don't like, oh wow, I'm glad he's improvising on this night. No, I like to hear it exactly the way I heard it on the record when I had that experience hearing Master Puppets for the first time. And so, yeah, tempo is like one of the most important aspects of listening to a piece of music. And so we want the tempos to be exactly like they are on the record.
There is a counterpoint to that, though, that I don't think you'll get it in the black metal community, but we certainly do in the metalcore live shows. The amount of backing tracks that people are putting in order to sound like the record because they put too many backing tracks on the record.
Yeah.
Now that shit, I see people getting annoyed, not like about improvising like we're talking about, like, oh, it didn't sound exactly like the CD. That's where the line is for me. Like, you need to be okay with it not sounding... You don't want... Otherwise, you could just stand in a room and listen to the CD really loud.
Definitely. And I should say, like, me as a drummer, I cannot play the same thing twice. I'm not capable of doing it. Like, it's a jam the whole time.
You jam the whole set?
Yeah. And it drives everyone else crazy. That's like, it's like, I have some general guidelines like this is a blast beat. This is going to be a, whip the horse. Maybe it's like this is always on the hi-hat, this is always on the ride, but the playing is always improvised. I'm just not capable of playing the same thing twice.
That must be so much fun.
It's fun. Yeah. And
you must enjoy playing gigs.
It's so fun.
What's that like?
Last night, and it's really good. Last night in London was like so fun because, we've played, this is a new set. We played the same set for a long time in Europe and then in North America. And this is a brand new set. Playing a lot of material we've not played in years, like stuff of Black Cascade.
Crystal Ammunition.
Yeah.
You're playing it?
Yeah, tonight.
Playing tonight?
Yeah. And it's sick.
It's so sick.
It's sick.
Such a sick song.
Because in the past, we were like, man, like we never play stuff from Black Cascade because it just doesn't feel right. But Crystal Ammunition is like fucking rocking. Sounds awesome. It's so fun to play.
I love that record.
And so it takes some time to like really inhabit the songs and let them like fully blossom as like the live version in 2024. And like last night in London, I was like, oh, like all of a sudden it's like almost time slows down. And it's interesting having a click because at the beginning of the tour, it feels like it's just like this. And I'm like trying to keep up with it. But last night it felt like, go.
Yeah, I love those nights.
Go. And I'm just like watching my hand like, oh, I can like tune it. I can bend it.
Yeah, you have extra time in between time.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Or in the shape change. Like last night I was like, oh, the space is opening up this way. It was trippy.
Are you doing drugs before you play?
Never.
Never?
No, I don't. I mean, I'll drink like a glass of wine sometimes. I smoked weed for the first time in like years. A couple months ago with my girlfriend in Berlin. But smoking weed is like taking acid for me.
Yeah, same. I hate it so much.
I like it. I like the brutal paranoia.
You like that?
Well, I don't like it, but I see the use in it because it's like a meditation.
Yeah.
Like meditation, what is meditation other than just not freaking out and just realizing, oh, this is happening. Okay, this thought is occurring.
Yeah, see, I can't
I'm not
do
gonna,
that
I'm not going to follow it.
I can't do that. I always follow it. Yeah,
just like
always.
follow it straight to hell.
Fear. Yeah.
Yeah, the fear.
Wait, but mushrooms, I'm fine, which is crazy because something happens in my brain on mushrooms where I start to get the anxiety and the mushroom goes, no, you're feeling like this because of that connection you just made, but make this one instead. And then I just go, oh, that's fine.
Wait, the mushroom says this?
Well, I guess. It's something in my fucking head. Well, the mushroom makes me say it.
Does the mushroom speak?
Honestly, mushrooms is like the only thing that I've rewired stuff in my brain to do with anxiety. Like I've had anxiety my entire life. And there's one time where that happened on the bus. And I started getting anxious about something. And it was like the mushroom in my fucking head went, no, your brain, it just really casually, your brain got to that because of this.
Wow.
And just don't do that. And then my anxiety... In fact, that same tour was DMT, but which was a similar thing. My theory is a bit of my anxiety just went, and with it, obviously, a bit of my vulnerability, and and it was weird. It just changed my brain in a good way for me.
My brain was definitely changed by mushrooms for sure. 100%.
A bad time or a good time?
Good. Yeah, it definitely like cracked me open. I've been cracked open a few times, like, 1 or 2 times with psychedelics, other times just on the natch.
Well, just raw dogging a fucking breakdown.
Just raw dogging psychosis. I'm glad they exist, the plants.
Yeah.
I guess like at this point in my life, I'm just not interested in blasting. Like I've blasted myself so hard, just with going really fucking hard at things. And at this point in my life, it doesn't feel necessary to like just destroy myself.
Yeah.
Like regularly. Like it's more about subtle tweaks and maybe being a bit more, instead of just like painting the whole fucking thing with like a red brush, just like, oh, let's tweak this. Tweak this.
I wish I could get. I mean, I can't. I tried it a million times to go. I used to be able to smoke weed; it was fine, and then I smoked it too much, and my brain just went nope. But I miss, like you're saying, just that little just like 2 puffs on a joint, and then my brain thinks differently. Doesn't happen anymore. It's just everyone hates you. You're going to die. You have cancer. It's happening.
Yes, the cancer. Did weed tell you to stop? Because I was smoking too much weed for a while, and I was like dependent on it. And the weed kept saying, usually in dreams, like, you need to stop smoking me.
Oh, what?
And if you don't, it's going to be bad for your mind.
Oh, I got to the bad. I didn't get any warning. I got to the bad mind.
I got warnings and didn't listen to it.
Yeah, I feel like we got the same sort of situation. I had a full fucking meltdown. It was like 6 months of my life, and just from fucking weed.
Yeah,
and I was just
it's strong.
Yeah,
it's strong. Yeah, it's going to be weird now that it's legal and just kind of everywhere.
Kind of dangerous.
I think it should be respected.
Yeah,
like it's not, because like to get weed legal, like a narrative is created. Like it's just this chill thing, man. It's a really powerful plant that can really change your mind.
Can be really strong.
It could be so fucking strong.
When I was like dipping my toe in again, like I was looking for 1-to-1 CBD to THC weed anywhere, and nowhere sold it. It was like, no, we got this 99% THC that will fucking, it's like smoking crack.
Or like dab rigs. Yeah. Like I see these kids with their crazy dab rigs. Hell no.
Some people can just do it.
No, not me.
No, me neither. You told me something when you just got here. No days off.
On this tour, well, there's, I think, 2 travel days, like getting from Ireland to Bristol, which is like a long drive. It was a long drive and a long ferry. So it's kind of a day off, but you're just in the bus all day.
Yeah.
It's not really a day off.
Not really a day off. Is all the bands on the same bus?
3 bands, Mortifrum, Gayria, and Wolves in the Throne Room, and the crew. So it's 24 people. And at one point, we had 2 girlfriends on the bus too. I had a girlfriend in the bunk. And you've been on
the double bunk. I've never done it.
It was an interesting experiment to like see where my mind went. Like you're breathing my air.
Was it good though? Are you tighter for it, or did you get kicked off the bus?
No. She's great. We found a way to make it work, but it was interesting to like be in like a very uncomfortable situation and not freak out, because it's like being in the nightliner bunk could already be kind of claustrophobic, but then like take away half the oxygen and half the space. And just to be able to, it was like laying on a bed, laying on a bed of nails. Like, I'm just going to be okay with this and see the freak out and just not go there. It was an interesting experiment.
You're far wiser in the mind than me. Every time you're like, you get to like, I see where it's going. I'm just not going to go there. I'm like, let's get there fucking quick. Let's get this freak out going.
That was the best advice I ever got from a book. Like, like whatever, as a kid read Zen Mind, Beginner's Mind.
You told me about this last time.
Yeah, the class. And then the one like nugget is that like the thoughts are going to come and go, and just let them come, but just don't, and they can hang out, but don't serve them tea.
Nice.
But I guess in my mind now, like I've just kind of transposed that to just don't follow that thought, because the thought comes in your mind, you have cancer. Everyone hates you.
Yeah, I get both of those.
Yeah. Just don't like, all right, okay, cool. Maybe don't fucking analyze it. And certainly don't like follow that thought. Like it's like, because the thought is like, come with me, come into a world of like fucking madness.
Yeah.
And like fear.
Which you can't get out of.
Well, hopefully you can, but some people don't. Just don't follow that thought. Another one I've heard is like, even if someone is speaking to you that doesn't have a body, like a spirit or something that is a non-corporeal, don't trust it necessarily. Because sometimes when people encounter spirits for the first time, they're like, wow, I'm special. I'm being spoken to by angels. It's just like another person.
Yeah.
Like you don't trust everything.
Wait, do you get spoken to by spirits?
Yeah.
How often?
Or whatever, voices in your head, call it whatever you want.
Well, there's a big line between me in my head going, you have cancer, or someone else in my head saying it.
Well, you were just saying before the mushroom came and talked to you. And
Yeah,
was
but I
like,
was on drugs.
one can have that same sort of experience that one might have on mushrooms in a non-psychedelic state, just with whatever the chemicals that occur endogenously in our brains, and have the same experience. So what is that voice? I don't know. For me, it's very much an open question. Yeah. Certainly, like in many cultures over the years, it's been, that's a spirit, that's an ancestor, that's a plant, that's an interdimensional being. It's not important for me at all to try to answer that question. I think it's an unanswerable question. It's just a matter of what's the most artful and beautiful way to describe that universally human experience of interacting with voices that are not just the one like usual ego mind.
Yeah, okay, now I'm with you. I was thinking in my head, I was like, do you mean ghosts? And then, but you just mean the voices in your head.
Yeah, yeah.
That aren't you.
But one might easily call that a ghost. One might easily perceive that and believe that to be the spirit of a tree or the spirit of a stone. And most people in the world do, even now.
Do you have like any religion? Are you atheist? Are you? What's your vibe?
Vibe?
I feel like there's a. What do you think happens when we die?
Oh, I have no idea.
No idea. What would you like to happen?
I don't really have an opinion about it.
It's like the hardest question anyone's ever asked anyone.
I think it's completely unanswerable.
Yeah, it is, isn't it? Even after I said it, I was like, yeah, what do I fucking mean? I hope it's something that I cannot even comprehend right now.
Yeah, of course.
But then when it happens, it's just like this big light bulb, like, oh.
Like that question, like what? Let's quantify and figure out what happens after we die. Like just that way of looking at things is like the classic human ego mind.
Yeah.
Like let's take like literally the mystery of the entire cosmos and like
figure it out
and like something we can just talk about right now. And then, oh, now I get it. Now everything is safe. But we all have moments of when we like peek at the transcendence beyond just this one moment, whether it's on psychedelic drugs or the birth of a child or
something really weird happening that you think could no way be a coincidence.
Yeah, which happens. It happens to everyone.
A lot.
It happens to fucking everyone. Even the people who are most materialistic and reductionist in their worldview, I guarantee you every one of those people has like two things that have happened in their life that are inexplicable.
Yeah.
And feel very different. Like it feels like what magic feels like.
I'm still in the ego mind though, because my brain goes, I just want to know.
Yeah.
I know
okay.
I should just be thinking, it doesn't matter if we don't know. But then my brain is like, I just hope I know. I just hope when I leave this realm, it's just like, oh, this is what happens.
We go to a cooler place.
No, do you know what? No, even if it's just like, I can't even explain it. It's weird. The experiences of dreams, the experiences of drugs, the experiences of even like I've done Wim Hof breathing and
that can get trippy.
I've got so trippy on that. I've talked about it on the podcast before, but like these things, when you have one of those moments, it really is like you're in another realm.
Yeah.
And it's like addictive, and I just hope it's that again. I had the weirdest thing on a the breath hold at the end of the Wim Hof thing. Yeah. I had this like a vision of being at the Empire State Building, and not even like at the top of it, just in the elevator, and I'd never been before. And it happened, and I forgot about it. And then I went up the Empire State Building like fucking 3 years later, and I'm in the elevator, and I get deja vu. And then I was like, no, that was that time I was in the bath doing my Wim Hof. I was here. This is then. And I was just like, that was one of my moments where I'm just like, oh my God. Like,
isn't there a name for that? It's called like the one white crow or something.
No.
It's like, if I've heard it described as a way to kind of debunk the hardcore rationalist materialistic worldview, that if that happens to you, which looks like precognition, or at least that time is not a linear thing that we perceive it to be, then what else have we gotten wrong? Like, what else do we believe to be the case that isn't the whole fucking story? And how could it be? Like, there's paradigm shifts in awareness of like what the world is. And why would there not be another one? Like, we're in this one where science is religion. Why would there not be another one that we cannot comprehend beyond that event horizon? Of course there will be.
It's crazy. The non-linear time thing is what I took from it, because it was just like, I was here. I've been here before. Wasn't a deja vu. The thing that differentiated it from previous deja vus, it was exactly the same feeling, was during the Wim Hof meditation, it had happened. So whatever state of mind I was in at that time was so memorable that I remembered it. So then every time I got deja vu after that, I've been like, is this just another little glitch there? I'm doing this in 1,000 different timelines or whatever. It was crazy.
I've certainly had the experience of experiencing everything at once. And like that veil is peered back about time is moving like this. And that facade is torn off and everything is present always now. That's whatever. Just seeing the whole enchilada, I suppose. But we can't live but I think that maybe that's what saints are. Saints are people who are in that consciousness like all the time. They're seeing the whole enchilada, or at least a much bigger piece of it all the time. But it's hard to like go to your job when you're in that mind state.
Yeah.
You end up like wearing a robe. There's been times in my life when I've been in danger of being like a robe guy with a robe.
Robe guy.
Yeah. Just like wandering with a robe. And I've said, no, I'm not going to be a robe guy.
Important to still maintain a foot in our poisoned religious scientific world.
For real. It's our world. I love this world. I do, despite all of the different stuff that happens here. I love it. I'm stoked about this incarnation. I love it. I'm also incredibly blessed. I'm in an extremely blessed position.
Yeah.
I think about that every day.
What do you do when you're at home?
Well, I'm a father. I have a 10-year-old son, so I spend a lot of time with him. He's homeschooled currently, kind of started during COVID and has continued on. And he's, which is mostly me, he's just sort of like facilitating his own process. He's like a autodidact child from the future.
Oh.
And so he just kind of like works on his projects. Like, I'm going to be working on coding some face recognition stuff today. And I'm like, all right.
He's 10 years old.
Yeah.
YouTube?
Yeah. He's got, yeah. When he's like working on his like Raspberry Pi or whatever, he's got his guy, like a cool older guy that tells you how to program your Raspberry Pi.
See, that's cool though, because he could go down the other side of YouTube, which is Fortnite.
Yeah, he's not in the video game. He would be into like making a video game and like creating virtual reality and worlds, but he's not like a game player. It's not. He's into like how it works under the hood.
That's real cool.
Yeah,
like,
he's a cool guy.
You are blessed. That is a blessed situation.
Yeah,
10 years old.
He's 10.
Messing around with Raspberry Pis. I don't know if that's normal. I mean, define normal, but you know what I mean? Like, I know 10-year-olds, my nephew.
He maybe has like maybe unusual interests. What else do I do? We work on the band a lot. I mean, you know, there's like the whole like business side of it, like our merch store and like ordering t-shirts and making sure they arrive in the correct place at the correct time. Just minutia. But to me, that's like really important. Like that's like a holy part of it. Like to me, like the stage show and then like making sure the invoice is correct on the t-shirts is the same shit. It's like being in a band, like being a musician.
And no one's going to care as much as you.
No one.
The amount of times that a manager or someone like that will miss a zero on an invoice and you're fucked.
For real. They miss zeros.
Yeah, all the time.
And they're not bad. But yeah, no one can do it as well as you can. And so, yeah, you know, we just sometimes just meet up on our laptops and do businessy kind of shit. What else did I do? I've always like built my own houses. Like every house that I've lived in since I was, you know, in my early 20s, I've built.
From the ground up.
Yeah. Yeah. You know, these are like weird houses.
Hit me. You live in a house that you built. I think
cool.
we touched on this last time.
Yeah.
Something to do with moss?
The current, well, I was with a woman for 20 years, Hawthorne's mom, and we have just, it's been like a years long disillusion of that partnership. And so like literally right now, I'm technically homeless.
You got to make a new house.
I got to make a new house. Yeah, I'm a serial house builder.
You're like a black metal squirrel.
I mean, yeah, because like, you know, I like unconventional spaces. I like handmade spaces that are like made with like cool materials. So right when we get home from this tour, the next day, some loggers are going to come to the woods behind the studio, and we're going to take down a few big Douglas fir trees and mill those up. And then that wood will dry for about a year or so, and I'm going to use that to build my next dwelling.
Where are you going to live for a year?
I've got
You got stuff.
I've got a bunch of I've got like a bunch of weird shacks and houses. And,
See, I remember this from the last thing. Like a true nomad.
I'm super minimalistic. I like
Do you get electricity in a...
Yeah, of course. Yeah. I don't have a flushing toilet right now.
Really? No. What do you do?
Like a composting toilet.
Oh.
Yeah.
How's that smell?
Great.
Great?
Yeah.
I was expecting not as bad as you'd think, but no, great.
It's fine. It's like the smell of like life occurring.
Okay.
It's one of those mind
yeah,
tricks.
you're fucking...
Yeah.
Human shit smell.
Human shit like mixed with like moss and humus and like a healthy process of like decomposition.
Oh, more like a...
I'm a bit of a hippie.
When you drive past a field, like the manure can smell quite nice. I quite like that.
I mean, it's all right, but it's not like
it's not like your shit's better.
You know, one's own shit never stinks. Something about that. So anyway, work on houses, make a lot of music. Like I work in Wolves in the Throne Room, but I also always do electronic music on the side.
Yeah.
Just kind of like because Wolves in the Throne Room is like a heavy metal band, and it has to have like this certain production value. And it has to be up to the standards of all of us. So I like always have to have my own thing where I can just do whatever I want to do. And it's usually electronic music. I'm kind of a raver as well.
Yeah.
I like techno and acid house. And
I'm still on the house thing. I've got questions about the houses.
Oh,
I'm
please.
Still in the house.
Yeah. Don't let me give that short shrift.
How are you cooking?
I have a single electric burner. And I enjoy the challenge of just cooking everything on just one burner.
Yeah, I mean, I watch a load of YouTube channels where people do that quite often in the woods, and I'm always like, that looks fucking awesome. That looks primal.
Yeah, that's what I'm doing. Like, I've wanted to kind of like live in a super primitive way for a while. After 10 years of like living in a house and just being like a dad in a house.
Yeah.
Now with like being divorced and my kid is like basically an adult at this point. This is a really good time for me to move into a bit of a phase where I can just live by myself and just like cook food over a fire.
Are you going to the supermarket though? Or are you going to
the Olympia Food Co-op?
Oh yeah. So you got a foot in the natural door.
Well, I live on a farm too. Like I've lived on the same farm for 20 years, which is where most of my houses and shacks have been that I've built over the years. The last house I built was like really nice. It was like this beautiful, like really nice house. It's like built with straw clay walls. So you can imagine like the wood.
This was the one I think you were telling me about. Yeah.
Probably last time we talked, it was kind of just getting done at that time.
Yeah.
And that was the one I kind of planned on like living in for a long time and having a family. But, you know, things change and relationships change. So yeah, I want something smaller and just a space of my own. I've not like lived alone ever really. Yeah. I've always had like roommates and living with a family, and it'd be cool to have a space just for myself.
Who owns the farm?
I do technically, but I'm very interested in like upgrading concepts around land ownership. And so it's not a commune per se, but everyone who lives there is sort of like is a part of a community, let's say.
Nice.
Yeah.
This sounds like a utopia. Sounds like you've made a utopia.
I mean, honestly, it's really good right now.
Have you got a baker?
Yeah, there's some good cooks. There's not like a designated baker with a bakery, but yeah, there's a lot of food sharing, and you know, it's just neighborly, just like
that's awesome
village or something.
I find it so hard to compute this in my head.
It's cool,
as you can see where I live. It's like you're
in the city.
Yeah, city guy.
Next couple of years, I'm going to kind of step back a little bit from that property because I've lived there for a really long time. And I'm going to build like a temporary dwelling at the Wolf House where Nathan lives, where our studio's at.
Yeah.
I'd like to be living right next door to my studio for a while.
So you could get in there and just anytime the lightning in a bottle strikes.
Yeah. And it's in the woods too. I just really love the woods that the studio is next to.
That's one thing I miss about living in the city, because I used to, when I grew up, I lived next to woods and I'd be in there every day. And like, what do they call it in Japan? Forest bathing. I can't remember what the name of it is.
Yeah.
But I love that. There's one, sometimes we'll drive to it, like near Loch Lomond, and there's a good woods for a Shoku Kirin, something like that. Anyway. Love a forest bathe.
So is this just like being in the woods?
Yeah. Just something about, and it, to me, I don't know, it kind of doesn't work for me in winter when I'm there. I need the green in there, and it's just like a crazy visual, and I can't even explain it. Just sea of green everywhere.
I know. Have you
smells and everything?
The smell of the moist humus. Yeah. Have you traveled in the Northwest where we live?
What counts as the Northwest?
This would be like, near Seattle.
Yeah, sure. I don't think I've ever been outside of the cities. I've just played shows.
Oh, okay. So you've not been up into the high mountains.
No.
And like the ancient forests.
No.
So our forests are evergreen. Like the forests are dominated by Douglas fir and hemlock and western red cedars, and then some deciduous trees as well. But the forests are evergreen, and they're very like mossy forests because it's, of course, a very gray, wet climate. And so in the old, mature forests, it's just this world of moss. It is very much like what you'd imagine like a Japanese like Zen garden being.
Yeah.
It's this quiet, mossy, dark
that's my shit.
realm. I love that shit. I mean, that's the music.
It literally comes, as you're saying that, I'm like hearing the music.
Yeah.
It really comes across in it.
In many ways, the music is that. It is that forest, the music is that.
I assume, I think you told me this before, other than Primordial Arcana, are they all like two hunters? The photo on the front, the photo on the back, I believe,
Yeah.
There's a good woods.
That's a good woods.
Is that the place you're talking about, or is that a different woods?
Oh, every photo is like from the Northwest.
Yeah, I think you told me that last time.
Like we've taken maybe half the photos we use on our different layouts, but certainly every photo like comes from like that bioregion, like that realm. Yeah, that's our shit. Like that's one I feel really lucky to have that as an artist, because we will never get off in some weird tangent.
Yeah.
Like the fans just know what we do.
And what you do comes from that.
Yeah. And it's really a lifetime's work. It's like, I will never go into the forest and be like, oh, I'm just kind of done with this.
It's like live in the city and make like a fucking 80s album.
I will never make an 80s album. I could see living in the city. Like my partner now lives in Berlin.
Love Berlin.
I love Berlin. And I love cities. I love Glasgow a lot.
Same.
I love Scotland. London felt really awesome to be in. I love cities, but I don't know. I'm the kind of guy, I think in the years to come, I'm gonna have a couple different houses. My partner just was about to inherit her family estate in Philippines. She was born on some mountain in the Philippines.
I can hear you making an album there. That sounds like an album.
I'm a bit of a tropical dude.
I love the Philippines. I've only been once. It was fucking amazing.
I've never been. It looks really, really cool. And she has an apartment in Berlin, so I'm there a lot. And I'll always have like a number of fucked up hippie shacks in Cascadia. I'm excited. It's a cool time to be me.
Hell yeah. Tell me what Wolves has got coming up that you can tell me.
After we get home from this tour, we have time blocked out to write. Like we each have a home studio, and we're just going to go in there and just write riffs.
Do you write riffs as well?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, we all write about a third of the material.
Such a diplomatic, wonderful. God, I love your band, man. I fucking love your band.
Thanks.
It's so sick. And now, like when I hear behind the veil of like how it goes on, it's like it's just so legit. Like everything in your songs and the artwork and everything, and then talking to you, I'm like,
well, thanks.
It's fucking legit.
It's not fake.
Yeah,
like,
exactly.
Like I don't really have like an artistic persona. Like it really is what you see is what you get.
It would be easy to have one as well.
Actually, literally are weird wizards in the forest.
Yeah, I love it. Let's end it on weird wizards in the forest because it's a fucking great sentence. Thanks for coming. I hope to have you again. You can come back for a third time.
I'll come by anytime you want. I like it in here. Next time I'll bring a drum head. I make a drum head art, and
you make one, it will go up. I'm sorry that all of my trees are fake, but the cats piss on them if they're real.
Fair enough. I like that cool stuffed Raven Crow thing.
There's a few of those around. These are Lars's, by the way.
Dude.
Real life Lars sticks.
It's my favorite drummer.
I know, we had the chat last time. That's why I wasn't going to do it this time, because it's mine as well.
I might, when I'm done, I'd like to touch the stick.
You can be done. You can do it on camera. Get the stick. Get the stick. These were given. Well, see, I like to build stuff as well, but badly. That was played by him at a festival.
Dude, I'm a big fan. I'm a Lars fan.
Yeah, we had like 40 minutes on Lars on the last one. I'm a Lars fan. His business, his attitude, his drumming, his playing the crash on a 2 instead of 1. Yeah,
I do that. If you come on the show tonight, I hope you will.
Fuck yeah, please.
You will hear me.
I'll stick about
You will hear. Oh, thank you. You will hear many Larsisms.
Let's call it there.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Weird wizards in the forest who are big fans of Lars Ulrich.
Hell yeah.
That's me in a
Let's
nutshell.
go.